As you descend 15 feet below the surface, you take your first breath and you choke, realizing you can't get air. Through your panic, you remember you didn't turn on your air in your tank. This problem could have been solved with a simple buddy check before you get into the water. As a scuba instructor, it's important for me to teach all my students how to properly check your gear. To keep yourself safe while diving, it is important to thoroughly set up your gear and ensure that your equipment is in working order. So step 1 is we are going to check our tank. There's something called a hydrostatic date, and we want to make sure that date is within 5 years. So that date is right here, and ours was done within 2 years, which is perfect. Next, you have a little ring right here. We call it the O-ring. You also want to make sure that your O-ring has no tears or scuffs or anything like that, because if you put your regulator on with a broken O-ring, the air will start leaking, releasing pressure from the tank. So once your tank is in working order, it is time to put your BCD on. Step 2 is attaching your BCD. You want to make sure the valve is facing away from you. And we are going to apply our straps. So on my BCD, I have 3 straps. I have a bottom one, a middle one, and this little strap right here is a safety strap. We want to put it around the valve. This is just in case our tank gets away from our BCD. This is kind of the last resort to keep it together. And to make sure your straps are properly in place, we use the 4-finger rule, and that is from the top of the strap. You also want to make sure that there's at least 4 fingers from the top of the strap to kind of this circular area. A lot of BCDs only have 1 strap, so that 4-finger rule more applies for BCDs with 1 strap, unlike mine, which has 2, which keeps it actually more secure underwater. So once your BCD is attached, we're just going to lift it up, give it a little shake to make sure that the straps are nice and tight. And now, since we know that they're nice and secure, we're going to attach a regulator. So we have 4 parts to the regulator. We have our main air source, or main regulator. We have our alternate air source. And we have 2 little things over here. We have our pressure gauge and our low pressure inflator. You want to make sure that your regulators are on the right side and these little low pressure inflator and your pressure gauge are on the left side. Then we are going to attach our regulators onto our tank. You want to make sure that you only make it finger tight, and before you turn the air on, you want to make sure that you that you attach your low pressure inflator hose to this little thing right here. It's kind of like a springy mechanism, so we're going to pull it back, give a little twist until you hear that little clicking, and that's when you know it's nice and secure. So once everything is on our tank and attached to the BCD, it is now time to test our gear. So first we're going to turn on the air. You want to make sure that you turn your tank valve all the way back. The first thing you want to check is how much air you have in your tank. A full tank has 3,000 psi or 200 bar, and my tank has exactly 3,000 psi, and that'll last me about 45-50 minutes underwater, which is a nice long dive. Now we're going to test our regulators. First, we're going to test our primary regulator. In Mexico, there's quite a lot of bugs and cockroaches and stuff like that. So I got in the habit of pushing this little button right here, in case any bugs or any little pipes and then fly out. Then you want to inhale just to make sure the air doesn't smell funny. Good. And then we are going to take a few breaths. The reason we do that is to make sure that our air is going through our tubes properly and that our air doesn't have any like carbon monoxide or anything in it. So I just want to make sure air tastes okay. Next, we are going to test our alternate air source, just like we did our primary. Give a little squirt, sniff, and a few breaths. Seems good to me. Next, we are going to test our low in pressure inflator, or an LPI. This little button right here is our inflator, inflate. So we're going to inflate the jacket, and as you can see, it inflates, going outwards. And this little button on top deflates it, so we're going to deflate it just a little, because I also want to check our little valves right here, just to make sure the air will be released properly if we ever use these. Alright, once you tested everything and your equipment is in working order, it is time to dive. Diving is a fun sport, but if you don't check your gear properly, it can become very dangerous. Before you hop in the water, you want to make sure you perform your pre-dive buddy check with your buddy to make sure their gear is in properly working order too. Once you make sure your gear is working and you have 3,000 psi in your tank, your masks are on, your fins are on, and now you can back roll into the deep blue ocean and begin your dive.